Okay. Um, Again, my name's Dustin Myers, and I'll be teaching this class for the next 2 weeks. I've been a developer for a few years. I actually attended a boot camp, an in-person boot camp in Provo, Utah, and changed careers from a photographer to a web developer. And honestly, it's been one of the best choices I've ever made. I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to do that. And since then, I've been working full time as a developer, part time as a teacher at that boot camp and at here at Lambda School. Um, Also part time on different side projects, personal projects, freelance projects, lots of different things. So it's really cool the opportunities that this kind of a course can open up for you. Let's see. There is a form that we need everyone to fill out, and let me grab the link for that, and I'll post that in the chat here. All right. And sometime tonight, please get on that form and fill that out. It's just a way that we can start splitting into groups for homework and give each group mentors so you have someone that you can turn to when you have questions and you need help as you're going through those. All right. There's a couple questions that were asked real quick. Is this a one-way call? This is. There's not any audio or video for anyone except for me, but you can post questions in the Q&A section, in the menu section there. Someone anonymous said they cannot hear any audio. Hopefully that's not an issue with anybody else because I haven't seen any other questions for that. But please post something there if it's okay. Just got the okay that audio is okay. So I'm sorry, can't help on my end. I have to make sure your volume's up, speakers are working, etc. Okay. So with that, let's jump into this introduction to web development. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, very good. So this is the form to fill out. All right. That should have a view to my slideshow, Intro to Web Development. What is web development? There's a lot that goes into web development. Some other word names that you'll hear this called is software engineering, programming. You'll hear front-end development, back-end development tossed around because it's programming and web development is a pretty big world. Definitely a lot that goes into this. So everything that you have seen on the internet was built by a software engineer or a web developer. And but it goes beyond just what you see on the internet. The other obvious one is phone apps are built by software engineers. All of the software programs that you've used, Microsoft Word, anything that you download and to your computer and run as a program has been built by a software engineer. Games that you've played, Fortnite, World of Warcraft, all of those have been built by software engineers. So the world of software engineering is actually quite large and touches a lot more of what we even expect thinking about it right off the bat. So how does this work? What is even going on behind the scenes? What needs to happen as we are building and programming websites? I'm just going to jump back into our chat real quick to make sure. Check for any. Okay, so it looks like we have a few questions. Okay. I'll answer these questions real quick and then we'll jump back into the slideshow. We will have to, I'm not in charge of putting this together, so hopefully we can get the dates and everything squared up. I don't know what the course ID is. Let's see, course starting on June 11th would be 0611. So let's look. It looks like there's this would be for a course starting on June 25th. So I think it will be this FSWMBC 0625. Okay. Brandy asked if it's required to be here for every single live webinar. It is not. I would recommend coming to watching these live as much as you can so that you can ask questions here, see the interactions, and be a part of that. These will be recorded and you can watch for those links to be posted and watch those later when it's more convenient for you. This week we'll run Monday through Thursday. Next week we have 4th of July, so we're taking that as a holiday, so we'll do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday instead of Monday through Thursday. So good question. Again, I highly recommend you be a part of the live webinar as much as you can. Okay, it looks like we got things added, didn't show before, but now it's showing. Okay, here's a really good question. What is the difference between a developer and an engineer? Another one you could throw in there is a programmer. I don't think that there's much of a difference between the three. It really depends on the person you're talking to and kind of the context of the conversation. So if I were to answer that question, I would say an engineer is probably a little bit more advanced than a developer, is further along in their career, has learned more, and can be considered an engineer more than a developer. But my very first job as a developer, I listed on my resume as a software engineer. There's no problems. I think they're pretty interchangeable. Okay, let's see. This React and Redux or Angular is a question that we'll get to in the main class, which we actually teach React and Redux, not Angular at Lambda. Gary, I'm not sure. Please reach out to your project manager about that, and they can take care of that for you. Okay, we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and clear these. And then we'll jump back over to the slideshow. Zubair, there's a That is a really, really good question, and something that will be answered more as you go through the class with Lambda. We actually have a great team that helps you search for jobs and helps you put together a resume. That is a big deal. You're trying to switch careers, and how do you land that very first job as a developer without ever working as a developer before? So we have a great team that helps you to put a good resume together that looks good even without experience. Thank you for that question. That's a really great question. Get these all cleared up. Probably don't have to worry about this. Okay, I'll answer this last question and then we'll move on. So yes, you do get one-on-one mentor time. How the course works is there will be mentors assigned to a group of students, and so you're not assigned a mentor one-on-one, but they're available to help you. And I don't think we've ever had an issue where we haven't been able to help a student almost immediately when you guys have questions and can jump on and ask those questions. Okay, last couple questions. Love it. This is really good. I'm glad you guys are participating, and these kind of things are really important. So we'll take care of them. Slack is a chat application. This is Lambda Slack right here. So you can see you can get into direct messaging channels. You can get into general channels. There's some, so when you guys join into your groups, you'll be given a Slack channel, and you'll be able to communicate with your mentors. That this is our main form of communication. When you have questions, this is where you'll be. So it'll be important to get onto Slack and part of that. Right now, Zubair, there are lots of availabilities, a lot of people getting jobs without degrees. Okay, so I'm sorry to do this, but we have to move on with the lesson content. These are really great questions. When you get assigned to a group, please bring these up with the project managers. They will be able to answer a lot of these kinds of questions. So we're going to jump back over and talk about what it takes to build a website and what is happening when that website is actually hosted and people are going to that website. So on your computer, you open up a browser, Chrome or Safari, any browser of your choice, and you go to a website. That address in the URL bar points to a specific set of servers that have the code for that website. And so there's communication between your computer over the internet lines to these servers. And then these servers communicate with databases. So the server, when it gets a request from your computer saying, I'd like to access this website, it will go to the database and it will gather the code that's stored on the database and the data that website needs, and it will serve it back to your computer. And then at that point, your computer or your browser will download the code and execute it. I just want to make sure, if someone can ask or answer in the Q&A chat right here, you are able to see my slideshow, right, when I swipe over on my window here? Okay, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so a browser requests a website page, and then the server gets code that someone has written and data from a database. Then the server serves that website code to the browser. The browser downloads and executes the code, and when a user interacts with the site, or there's even things that happen that are run on timers, more communication happens. When you click a button, when you're signing into Facebook and you click log in, your website, your browser will communicate again with the server, with the database, and back to the website. So this communication is happening constantly as you're browsing the internet, as you're doing all the many things that we do online, or on a phone app, or on other mediums like that. So somewhere, someone wrote the code for this, and that's what we want to learn. Now, there's a few different titles that developers or engineers go by. In the red, you see a circle for front-end developers. Front-end developers write mostly code that lives on the browser, is executed by the browser inside your computer. I stretched that circle out over the servers a little bit because some front-end engineers will write server-side code, but mostly it's going to be on the browser or on your phone. One thing that you'll hear is client-side and server-side code. Client-side. A client is your device that is consuming the end product, the website or the application. So your phone is also considered a client device. So when we when we talk about computers, or when you hear the term client side, that will also include mobile phones and mobile devices. So front-end developers build applications and websites that run in browsers. Front-end developers don't necessarily build mobile applications. That would be a mobile engineer. Back-end engineers here in the blue will write code that is executed on the servers instead of on the browser on a client device, or code that's executed on the database devices. So this is kind of a generalized split up of what different developers work on. A full stack developer will write code for computer browsers, will write code that gets executed on servers, and we'll write code that gets executed on databases. Through the course that you take at Lambda for the 6 months, you will learn the full stack development. You'll learn to become a full stack developer. That doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get a job as a full stack developer, but you will learn how to write code for all three of these situations. The boot camp that I went to was very similar, where we learned full stack development, but since I finished that class, I've only done front-end work. So I've only really built applications that get executed in a browser and not on servers and not in databases. So there's lots of different paths you can take once you finish this program. I was a photographer, that I got a degree in photography. And so that visual aspect of of taking pictures and composing a photograph, and then later editing pictures and doing a little bit of graphic design really plays well to me working as a front-end developer. So if you feel like you're a little more visually oriented, then that's probably a path that will be interesting for you. Back-end developers tend to be more into mathematics, more into algorithms, and enjoy manipulating data. And so if you feel like that's what you enjoy, that's probably a path that would be interesting to you. Or combine them both and do it all and be a full stack developer. I'm going to jump over real quick and see if there's any more questions, and then we'll continue on here. Welcome, Joel. Glad you could make it. We're just doing a quick introduction to what web development actually is. MVC. MVC is something we'll talk about more in the actual Lambda class that you take. So not so much in this introduction class. Okay, I think we do have CS courses. So this is a good question here. As I mentioned at the beginning, you learn both web development, and then we go into some computer science classes. So the first 3 months of your time at Lambda is learning JavaScript, and the classes are more based around web development. And then the second half of the class, the last 3 months, are computer science classes. So you'll actually learn Python, and you'll learn algorithms, and you'll get into more computer science based things. So really good question. Thank you, Elizabeth. I saw that question a minute ago. There is an evening class, a part-time class that lasts 12 months instead of 6 months, and it's taught just in evenings instead of 9 to 5 hours. It's a really fantastic way to, I know not everybody can just quit their job and take this class. So we love that after hours class that opens up those opportunities for people that need to keep their day job but want to learn this on the side. Okay, I think there were a couple more. Yeah, again, we've got a team, a really great team that helps you prepare for getting jobs, and mock interviews is a part of that, and we'll do whatever we can to help you get hired and practice going through interviews, setting up your resume, all of that. This we're not going to get into so much. I apologize. For this class for the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing just front-end stuff. So we'll be learning 3 different programming languages. We'll learn JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. That's CSS and HTML are purely front-end. They're just run by browsers. They're not executed by servers or by databases. So JavaScript is a little bit different. JavaScript, up until 2009, was only run in a browser and not on back-end technologies like servers or databases. But in 2009, Node.js or Node JavaScript was brought into the world and made it possible to run JavaScript on the server. We won't be doing Node in this 2 weeks, so the JavaScript that we learn will just be for front-end projects. Okay. We will be doing HTML5 and CSS3. Joel, great question. Yep, this is if you take the full-time course, it will be 9 to 5 each day. Yep. Okay. I got to jump back into the class and make sure we covered the material for today, since we're already halfway done with the class. Again, please, these questions, send them right to your project managers, the mentors that you'll be assigned to help out with those. Okay. All right, so web development with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, these are 3 different programming languages, and all 3 of them are executed in the browser to give you a website. All 3 of them have very specific jobs or roles that they fulfill. The HTML gives you the content and the structure of a website. This is what we'll be going over tonight. CSS gives you the style and helps you design your content. So we structure our website with HTML, we style it with CSS, and then JavaScript comes in as the behavioral part of a website. So as you click on a button and something happens, that something has happened because JavaScript has just been executed and run. Or if you hover over, actually, let's jump on this and we can kind of talk this out through here. Let's see, we just want to go to lambda.com. Oh. Okay, so we're going to look at this. I'm going to close this for a minute. Okay, so here we have a website. And this website is built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The HTML that is a part of this page is, you'll see the text is all going to be written in HTML. You'll see even the text inside buttons usually is HTML. This image of this girl here, that is written into or built in with HTML. So all the content, these menus up here, the text on those menu buttons are in HTML. Even the logo here is built into the HTML. The CSS gives the text the font, or lets you define what font you want for this text, what size you want the text to be, what color you want it to be. You'll notice that this is kind of a lighter gray than this text up here. That is defined and built with CSS. The color of the button, the slant to this picture is built with CSS. The background to this quote, that blue background, where it's a little bit, it's only partly opaque. You can see through it a little bit. That's built with CSS there. Then, if you notice, as you hover over this button, it changes colors. That interaction and that behavior is built with JavaScript. The color before and the color after the hover is defined in CSS, but the fact that it changes, oh, I clicked on it on accident. The fact that it changes as you hover is built in with JavaScript. Same with these here. When you hover and these little drop-down menus appear, that is JavaScript. It knows that where your mouse is at all times, and it knows that you're now hovering over this menu item, and it knows that it should show this drop-down. The colors, the text inside this drop-down is built in HTML. The colors are defined in CSS, but when this appears and disappears is built with JavaScript. Usually, if you notice, just one last thing, if you notice how it's kind of animated, it pops in from that bottom left corner, it pops up like that. That animation is usually built in CSS. That's not important to know right now, but just kind of a cool thing that you can learn for later. So that's how we build and structure websites with these 3 different languages. Now, what is a programming language? A programming language is a set of keywords and a specific syntax that we write a program in that can be recognized and executed by a computer. Whether that computer is your actual computer, like your laptop, showing a website, or whether that computer is a server or a database or anything else like that. There is a computer that can recognize the specific syntax that you wrote and can execute that code. To give you an example of that, I'm going to pull up this right here. This is called a text editor. This one specifically is called Atom. It's a free text editor that you can use to write code. And this, as you can see, is some code. Now, I've named this file index.html, so we know that this is HTML and not CSS or JavaScript. And you'll notice that with the different colors, there's some blue and some red in here to help us quickly at a glance recognize what's going on and recognize these keywords that I talked about before, to separate that from maybe just some text right here. So we've got some text here, we've got some keywords. So these text editors help us to, with their syntax highlighting, help us to be able to, at a quick glance, recognize what's going on and be able to program more efficiently. So, as I said before, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can all be run and executed in a browser. To show an example of this, I'm in Chrome. I'm going to open that file that we just saw. It's right here, index.html. And inside my browser, I am now looking at how the browser executed and interpreted this code. So, boom, it's that easy. I now have an HTML website that's running in the browser, being executed just from this code right here. So we're going to learn a little bit more about this, what is actually happening and what HTML is and how we can start to build with it and start creating websites. This is the very first step to building an actual website. Tomorrow we're going to cover a little bit more HTML and get into and learn CSS. And then Wednesday, we will learn, jump right into JavaScript. So in the next 3 days, you will have started to learn 3 different programming languages. It's pretty awesome. Okay, let's let's jump back over here. HTML, as I was saying before, programming languages are a set of keywords and that are written into a specific syntax that a computer can recognize and execute. With our HTML, this is the syntax that that we write HTML in. You've got these carets everywhere, and you've got these keywords that we call HTML tags. Okay, to kind of highlight this, I'm going to inspect this web page live inside the browser here. I need to change this though to be, okay, it doesn't matter. We'll just leave it right here. So if you notice, this structure right here looks a lot like my code that I wrote. Actually, it should be pretty much identical to the code that I wrote. So we've got a body tag inside an HTML tag. Inside our body tag, we've got an H1 or a header tag and a P or paragraph tag, just as we wrote it here. Now, something interesting is going on as I hover over these different HTML tags. You'll notice that Chrome is actually highlighting the element that I'm hovering over. I think I do want to split this onto the side. Okay. So here's the whole web page right here in the white. I need to get rid of that. Okay, there we go. That'll be much easier. So this HTML tag, as you can see, is surrounding the entire website. All of the content that I have on my website. The body tag is doing kind of the same thing. We're not going to get too much into the HTML tag and body tag. What you need to know for this class is that everything that we write is going to be inside the body tag here. And actually, we're going to use a really cool service called CodePen that takes care of all this wrapping stuff for us. So we won't even need to write these. All we're going to do is start with our content here. Oops. So inside of our body tag, we've got two other elements. We've got this H1 header, and we've got our P tag, or our paragraph element. And you can see that they're actually taking up space, and they're taking up this area inside of our website. We can use CSS later on to define if we want them to take up less space or if we want to take them to take up more space. You can see that there's some spacing between hello world and this sentence. We can define using CSS how much space there should be, or we can take away space from that. But what I want you to start to understand and conceptualize is that each of these things that I've written here has a place on the website, takes up space. We call these elements. So these are each elements inside of our website. When you are writing the code and you see inside these little carets, you see these different things here. Those are called HTML tags. So a tag is just like you see on the screen here. We've got a paragraph tag, a div tag, span tag, and then header tags, from H1 being the largest header, H6 being the smallest. Now there are a lot more tags than what I'm displaying here. these are the very basic ones to help us get started with your homework and to start to learn what HTML tags are. So enough showing and talking about it. Let's actually build out some stuff here. And I'm going to introduce you to CodePen, that tool that I was talking about just a minute ago. So this is CodePen. Each of you will need to sign up for, go to codepen.io and sign up for the service there, get an account there. And then also the other one is Replit, REPL.IT. Sign up for both of those, get an account with both of those. That's what we'll be using to code during these 2 weeks. So you won't need an actual code editor or text editor. It's good to, if you want to download like Atom or Sublime or any of these free ones, you're definitely welcome to, but for the class, we'll be using Replit and CodePen. So let's take a look at this. As you can see here, actually, as I said before, we don't need to wrap in CodePen, you don't need to worry about the HTML or the body tag stuff. So HTML is the way that we structure our websites, but you can see that it's just kind of looks old school, doesn't have a lot of design to it. That's because we haven't done anything with CSS to this website. But this is where we need to start off, so you can't design something that you don't have built out yet. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this all out. Actually, let me start a new one. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to create a new pen. And for today, I'm going to maximize the HTML. Oh, I minimized it. Maximize the HTML editor. We don't need to worry about our JavaScript or CSS editors right now. Okay. So to begin with our HTML, we need to add an HTML element. A lot of times we'll start with a header. So it's as simple as just open or this caret, the HTML tag, and then the closing caret. Now, most HTML elements, most HTML tags need an opening tag and a closing tag. So this H1 or this header tag needs to have a corresponding closing tag, like so. So the way that you define a closing tag in HTML is by everything's the exact same except we've got this slash in here. This slash means that we're now closing this tag. This is part of the syntax of this language, and it's very important to be able to, or it's very important to remember to close your HTML tags. I actually spent 2 or 3 hours on a project once where it was the HTML file was very large. There's a lot of code inside that HTML file, and we weren't able to manipulate it and design it with CSS because somewhere in the middle of all that code, someone had forgotten to close their HTML tags. So the structure and the syntax is very important to remember when you're writing in any programming language. Okay, as it saves, it shows us that, hey, there we go. We've got a header tag with some text inside of it, and we've closed that tag, and now we get our header. Let's look at the difference between a different sized header here. This time I'm going to do this all in one line. I'm going to close my tag. Oh, there we go. There we go. We can do the same thing with all the way down to, with these header tags, all the way down to an H6. So this is the one exception to the CSS rule, that we can use these H tags, these header tags, to actually define the size of the font. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the syntax of HTML, because right now, as we've written this, everything's just on its own line, and they're just listed as elements that are sitting on top of each other, right? With HTML, a lot of times we're going to be doing something called nesting different elements. And so let's learn about that a little bit. We're going to start with a div tag. I want you to see what I just did there. So I wrote the word div, which is an HTML element. It shows up here just as CodePen's autosaving. This is going to be pretty common in most editors. You can do this on CodePen. This is a shortcut, so you don't have to type out the carets every time. But type out the word div and hit tab. And the program knows that, okay, he's trying to write a div tab, div element. And so it knows to create the element, the tag, and the closing tag for that. So just a shortcut trick for you. Okay, so we've got a div tag. A div is a division or a section of your web page. And inside this div tag, we're going to do, let's go ahead and erase all this stuff here. And I'm going to do another header tag, h1 tab. Like that. And then here we're also going to have a paragraph tag, p tab. Okay, now we're going to come outside of this div, and we're going to create another div. And we're going to do an h3 header and call this div2. And we're going to do a p tag and specify that this is inside div2. Now, if I didn't have any of these div tags, this is special syntax that tells the computer not to execute this line of code. This is called a comment. They're used commonly in all programming languages. But it's the exact same as erasing that line of code. So I'll just erase that. Just erase all of these. And you'll notice that as it updates, nothing has changed visually. So why are we writing these extra lines of code in our HTML? Why are we wrapping these inside these div tags? Why are we nesting these? We're going to learn a little bit more about that as we get into CSS. But as if I were to do something like this, if you notice, as I can change the color of anything that's wrapped inside a p tag. So this line and this line have now been changed to blue. If I want to just change this p tag to blue, then there's specific ways that I can do that, and it's a lot easier to do that as we structure our HTML this way, as we wrap it inside different divisions or different sections. I'm not going to go over that right now because that's part of our CSS lesson tomorrow, but just to help you kind of visualize right now what's the purpose of these div tags. Sometimes we have multiple elements inside a website that are the same element, same type of element. So we have a paragraph up here and we have a paragraph down here that we want only one of them. We want to style them differently. So as we organize our code like this into different sections and nest them inside different elements, we can begin to target just this specific paragraph tag, or maybe we just want to target this specific paragraph tag. So this is going to help us organize our work for later when we start to design. This also helps us, if we take all these out again, this is also going to help us to keep our HTML code organized. So just imagine that we had a whole bunch of these headers and paragraphs inside this file. Unfortunately, that I didn't keep pushing enter there. Actually, I can tidy it up right here. Okay. So now it's really hard to say, okay, I want this. Where is this one defined? Is it right here? This is in div 1. Is it this one? Change it. Yep. So, oh, that was a lucky guess. It's really hard to, if you don't have things nested, as we were doing before with those div tags, to just look quickly on this in this file and say, okay, this is the element that I'm looking for, that I need to change. So as we wrap things like this, oh, went too far. As we wrap things like this and keep our code a little bit cleaner and organized, it'll be a lot easier down the road for you as the developer and for other people who may work in that same file to know quickly what's happening at a glance. One thing I do want to say about this, and then we'll kind of wrap up for the day, is that I've seen a lot of new students who are learning HTML not use this syntax. Here, we'll make this simple. Not use this nested syntax here. So they will have everything on the same level and kind of like that. Now, as you notice, it doesn't affect the outcome of the website at all. But looking over at our file, it's a lot harder to start to see where things are nested and where things are at, and it's going to be a lot harder to work in this file. So what I'd love to see all of you start to do from the very beginning is to do something like this. When something is nested, when this element is nested inside this element, don't put it on the same level as the element it's nested in. You can do 2 spaces over, space, space, or use the tab button to tab over 2 spaces automatically for you. Now it's really easy for me to see that this header tag and this paragraph tag is nested inside this div tag. The reason that this is so important is, what if I had a situation that was like something like this? Paragraph. We'll slide this over. Then you'll see very quickly that this is a common situation, that you're going to nest. You're going to have multiple nestings going on here. But if everything, it doesn't work that way. If everything had been done like this, then it would be really hard to see what elements are nested where. And that's going to come into play as we start to design our website and use CSS. It's really hard to see that this paragraph tag is nested 3 levels deep from this div tag right here. Okay, so each time you have a new level of nesting, it's going to be really important to try and keep the syntax like this. We're 2 spaces in. You just hit the space bar 2 times when you've got a new level of nesting going on. I promise this will help you a ton as you are trying to figure out why things aren't working. We're going to be doing a lot of that as developers. We spend a lot of time, it's called debugging. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out why things aren't working as we assumed they would when we wrote the code for it. Okay, so let me jump back over here. That's not what I will, let's see. Stop sharing that. Okay, lots of new questions. I'll see if there's anything I can answer real quick for you. Then we'll call it a night. We've got some homework for you to do tonight. Please make sure you've got that form filled out so we can get everybody split up into groups and get you going on with all that stuff. Real quick, I got a message about the homework. So this is Thomas. He is the section manager for the Web Dev 101 course. He is a fantastic person to reach out for help with your homework or when you've got questions. A lot of these questions that I didn't have time to answer, he's a good one to reach out to, or to he's kind of the manager of this class, the section manager, and he is the manager over the project managers that will be kind of your main mentors that you're working with. So, okay, let me copy this link and we'll put it right here. Okay, that should be in your chat there on the side. I forgot I wasn't sharing my screen. I apologize. Let me do this real quick. There's Thomas. Okay, in Slack right there. He's the one I was just talking about, and I was looking at his picture, and I realized you guys weren't looking at his picture. So, yep, that's him, the section manager for the web dev for this course that we'll be doing for the next 2 weeks. Okay, let's see where we're at over here. SES, MVC, mock interviews, we talked about those. HTML5 and CSS3, yep, we'll be learning the latest and greatest. We're always going to be at the latest version of the technology that we're using. For those of you who don't know what this question is about, HTML and CSS are the programming languages. The 5 and the 3 you see at the end of them, of those titles here, are just the version that language is on. So there are groups for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and any other language that you'll learn with us. There are groups that are hired and paid to help enhance and develop these programming languages, and so they come out sometimes with a new version that makes things better for us as developers, easier, more accessible, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, HTML5 will be learning the latest of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Python, all the things. Obviously, my throat is getting a little dry. Tyler, is a really good question. I don't know much about the robotics class, so I would suggest reaching out to Thomas, and if he doesn't, Thomas Dillard, if he doesn't have a good answer for you, he can definitely find that out for you. I'm going to drop his name in the chat here. So he was the section manager. Make sure you get onto Slack. That's the best way to reach out to him. You're always welcome to reach out to me. I'll drop my name in here as well. And then any of the project managers that you get lined up with tonight. Okay, this intro course, do you have any suggestions? This intro course for those of us with moderate front end. Good question, Melissa. This is going to be from the ground up course. So this is assuming that students have zero knowledge of programming, zero knowledge of front end development, zero knowledge of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. This will be from the very, very bottom up, as you could see through the class, through the lesson there. Okay, let's see. Biggest differences between web development course and iOS development course. By the way, real quick, I'm just answering these questions. You're welcome to stick around and listen to these questions. I think we're done with the class today, so you've got your homework in the chat, and hopefully you filled out that form, and we'll get you split into groups. But we'll go ahead and say that the class is finished now. If you'd like to stick around as I answer these last few questions, you're welcome to. So thanks. Same time tomorrow. We'll learn a little bit more about HTML, and we'll jump into some CSS. Thanks. Okay. So Morgan was asking the difference between the web development course and the iOS development course. Aside from, yep, you'll learn different languages. I want to do the iOS development course, but can't do it full time. Yeah, definitely understandable. So the biggest difference is where your code is being executed and the applications that you build. So when you learn web development, your code is executed in the browser, whether that's on a phone, a tablet, a computer, it's executed in the browser. When you take the iOS development class, you're actually building iOS apps. So your code is written to be downloaded to a phone and executed from that phone. It's not inside a browser. It's executed from the phone itself and run on that phone app. Hope that answers that question. Yes, please fill out the form as soon as possible. This is a CSS question. Thanks for asking that. We're gonna jump in that tomorrow. Border radius is basically the what makes the corners of a button or a box kind of rounded off. So as you're online tonight, take a look at some of the different buttons that you see on different websites. A lot of them will have kind of rounded corners. That is defined in CSS, how round that corner is or how sharp of a point it is without any border radius. Trevor asked where I can find the Slack ID. If you haven't gotten an email for it, I would suggest emailing whoever you've been in contact with at Lambda, and they can help you get squared away on that. All right. Christopher asked, isn't HTML a markup language and not a programming language? Yes, you caught us there. HTML is a markup language and not a programming language. Since we're just some concepts I will be a little bit more blurry on, things like that, specifically for this class. When we get into the actual Lambda web development class, the 6-month program that you're paying for, that's when we'll definitely clarify those things a lot better. There's a lot to learn in this 2 weeks, so we won't be able to, some of those things will be a little bit more blurred, but thank you for asking that question. That's a really great question. In Chrome, are you in developer mode? Yeah, let me share my screen again. Okay, so we're on this question here in Chrome. I think it's when we were over here. So this is actually going to be part of your homework. I think this is what you were talking about. This is going to be part of your homework that you'll right-click on a website and click on Inspect there, so that you can look at the developer tools and you can start to inspect the website here. So that's how we got to this. There is some options here. If I go into settings, there's some different options I've done to, like this experiment tab isn't enabled unless I'm in developer mode in Chrome. But you don't have to worry about setting that up and getting that taken care of for this class. So yes, I am in Chrome. I'm using developer mode. It's not going to be necessary for this class. So that's mostly so I can use a custom theme for my inspector tool here. Okay, let's see. How did you move that code to the browser again? If we're talking about this same thing here, I have in my folder, in my Finder here, I've got just an HTML, index.html file on my computer. So I went to File, Open File, and I found it, and I opened it. So in Chrome, you'll notice that I'm focused on Chrome, File, Open File. And you can run, ooh, it looks like there's an error one. Let's see what that does. What is this error HTML? Oh, look at that. See, there's some HTML. It looks like a pretty good error page right there. So we'll go back to our index.html. So yeah, any HTML file you can open up right inside your browser, and it'll execute the code for you. Okay, let's see. And CSS. Oh, yep. Chris is Calling me out again. Thank you, Chris. Unless you go by Christopher. Thank you, Christopher. Okay, what is the difference between body and I assume, Rochelle, you meant to finish that with body and HTML tags. The HTML is the overall wrapper of your website. The body tag is what separates the body and the head of a website. So you can see here we've got a head and we've got a body. As I hover over body, we can see that there's actually content displayed on the website. As I hover over head, there's nothing in this head. Even if I added, let's go back into Adam here. Even if I added something here, and save it and refresh this page. Oh, it got put into the body. See, so there's certain things that go inside the head that are more for, that aren't actually displayed on our website. So the difference between the HTML and the body is what separates what we're trying to display and just some more metadata type things for our website. The HTML tag is what wraps all of them together. Okay. Let's see. What if you already had an account in CodePen? That's totally fine. Please use that that account. You're welcome to make another one if you want. I am fine either way. What does div stand for? Div stands for division. Is there a limited number of text in headers and p tags? Nope. You can put as much text inside header tags or paragraph tags as you'd like. And line wraps. Yes, yeah, line wrapping is kind of a bummer thing in CodePen. It does look like it messes up our indentation. If we look at this, we see that this paragraph tag is actually all just on line 4. So it wraps. I don't think I can I wonder if I can zoom out enough to make it not wrap anymore. Okay, so there we go. So line 4 now is not wrapping, and you can see that everything is nesting as it should be, like that. So really good question. Unfortunately, CodePen does do weird things when you're wrapping text. So, but yeah, this is still nested okay. This is how we want it to look. We've got p tag, we've got text inside of it, nested on the correct levels. As we pull this back and shrink that down, unfortunately, it does that. Most text editors are going to be a lot better with this kind of a situation than CodePen is. Quick overview of your homework. I would love to, Dina. I want to let you guys go ahead and struggle through it a little bit, because as you struggle a little bit, that's how you're going to learn the best in this class. So if you get really stuck, there's kind of one rule for this, this struggling idea. I don't want you to struggle so much that you're just spinning wheels and not getting anywhere. So I want you guys to feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask for questions. But your first go-to should be something like a Google search, or reading through the curriculum again and reading through the material that we give you. So a lot of times I say if you've struggled for more than about 20 minutes, then reach out to someone and start asking us so that we can help clarify what's going on. So it's good to struggle. It's bad to struggle for too long that you're just now wasting time. Node.js, not sure what that question is for. Thank you. Will we be learning Node.js? Not in this 2-week program, but in the 6-month program, yes, you'll get very good at Node.js. Is the form you need from us on Slack? The form is in the where are we at? Zoom. Go away. Zoom menu. Nope, that's not it. The form is in the Zoom Slack or Zoom chat. So I can't access it right now while I'm on sharing my screen. Okay, quick question, missed the first 5 minutes of the video. What form? Just questions Slack. Yeah, you can always reach out in Slack and ask questions there. I think we just went over that. The form is in the Zoom chat. It's the first link that I posted there, so you should be able to find it there. Otherwise, yeah, ask in Slack and we'll get it right to you. Software engineers cannot know everything at one time, but in your experience, how often should engineers stay at the top of new updates in the field? That's a really good question. It kind of depends on your job and your goals, your long-term career goals. Most front-end developers, I'm a front-end developer, most front-end developers are working in JavaScript. And JavaScript and its the different tools that we use in JavaScript are updating constantly. So for a front-end developer, it's more important to stay kind of on top of new technologies as they're coming out. Back-end developers, technology isn't updating as quickly, but it still does. So if you want to not have to worry about learning new things as much, then that might appeal to you a little bit more than front-end work. I really enjoy learning all these new things and adding new tools to my tool belt and learning new tricks to solve problems. And so I really enjoy kind of the fast-paced change of the front-end world. Really, really good question. Thank you. Will Lambda assist you in connecting your web dev career internal opportunities if you have little knowledge about CSS? I'm assuming this means after the class. Maybe you can clarify in another question, but after you take the 6-month class, you will be totally ready for an internship. A lot of people actually are getting full-time jobs, more than just internships. So if you're talking about after the 6-month course, then absolutely you'll be ready for all those opportunities. After this 2-week course, you're not even going to be really ready for an internship. This is just an intro to get you ready for learning, and the large step before even an internship. Couple minutes late, no problem. Tyler was wondering if there's another link for splitting into groups I hadn't filled out. Just that first form that we filled out. I dropped the form in the chat here. I don't believe that the iOS covers Android. I think you're just going to be learning mostly Swift. I don't know how much into C++ that you'll learn. But yeah, you'll be working mainly in the iOS platform. Liz, good question. Most people use Chrome, so a lot of us develop in Chrome because that's our biggest user base. Will be using Chrome, so we want to see how our website is behaving in Chrome. I know quite a few developers that use Firefox. It's actually a little bit more developer friendly of a browser, but it's actually good to always be testing your website and your application in all the different browsers, just in case you have a user that pulls it up in Safari or in any of the number of browsers. The reason that it's important to test in all the different browsers is they actually will execute your code slightly differently than the other browsers. So there's going to be some minor differences and even some breaking differences where this button works in Chrome, but it's not going to work in Safari. But for the most part, I think most people are in Chrome. Let's see. How would you say they may be for Lambda Pro? That's a good question. I don't actually know the Odin project. So I would suggest reaching out to Thomas Dillard and asking him that question. I don't know that I can answer this question in a good way for you. I apologize for that. Okay, a lot of people not finding the form, so give me just a minute and I'll just to finish up these questions. Also, the questions you're asking for our homework, is this code pen complete or just the answer use? Where the heck do we turn it in? Good question, Elizabeth. Please reach out to one of the project managers. They'll help you show you where to turn that in and how to what to do with homework that you completed. Oh, I don't know what I did there. It jumped and okay, I think we're okay. I think that's that question there. So yeah, please reach out on Slack to Thomas Dillard or one of the project managers. Rick, I'm not sure how that's being handled right now. Okay, I meant more in the fact of the first time I took this course, I had no idea where putting answers to my questions. I figured out other people. Did we? I don't remember what your first question was. Sorry, Dina. Dana, maybe. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yes, and I told you to struggle through it. I apologize for that. Where did that? Here we go. So Boyd answered the question for us. For the homework, do we type our answers right in the code pen? Yep, just type your answer in, and it will be saved as part of that file. So when you send that link to your project manager, then they'll be able to see your answers. So let's see. I think I've got. I'll just open up right here. So what they're referring to, in case you haven't opened this up yet, this is the homework. It's basically just some of these questions here. You'll just enter down, return down, and answer the questions here like that. And then you'll notice that it'll you can fork it and send your updated URL to your project manager. So yep, answer the questions right here in the file itself. Okay, I'm going to figure out this form issue that we're having. Looks like we're still having that. Robert, please reach out on Slack to the project managers, and they can tell you how to submit homework for these assignments. IT support, not as much. So here at Lambda, we're mostly focused on our the different disciplines of the specific class you're taking. So IT support is going to be less of a focus for us, and that we're actually learning how to build the websites. When is the homework due? Homework is due. Each class we're going to have new homework, so the hope is that you have it done and you're ready for the next class the next day. And looks like Thomas just reached out. Q&A with individual project. Oh, cool. Well, hopefully I've answered all your guys' questions anyways. But there is going to be another Q&A with your individual project managers that we're going to be doing. So I'll just finish up these last few questions, and then you can jump onto that Zoom chat. Let's see. Not sure when we're going to have an Android class. I'm sorry. There's a lot that goes into preparing these classes, and we have to build curriculum, as you mentioned, hire the instructors, all of that. So yes, my current tab is CodePen. Hopefully we're looking at this. That was the right timing. Firefox, yep, thank you, Steve. I'm gonna skip over some of these because I need to end this pretty quick, and then a lot of these questions you can ask on the Q&A that's gonna happen in about half an hour here. And then if you have a question, you don't want to wait for that half an hour, reach out to us on Slack. Very possible to find a job working remotely. More possible with more experience that you get. A lot of times companies don't like to hire brand new developers or junior developers right out of a class like this or out of school, because they like you to sit physically next to a more senior developer that can help you as you have questions. That's really hard to do remotely, although there are companies that do hire junior developers in remote positions, and they have the system set up to make it a successful position for you. If you weren't a part of the original broadcast, then you may have to watch that. You can probably Google a lot of these. Yeah, either way. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully I was able to get to a lot of the questions. I still see all the links and forms here in the chat. I'm going to drop one more link here. If you still can't find the links, please reach out to us on Slack, or if you don't have Slack set up, at the very least, you could please email whoever you've been working with at Lambda, and we'll make sure to get that squared away for you. So Q&A session is going to happen soon at that right there. So thanks.